Now, Executive Suite with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi.
What does Lincoln, Rhode Island have in common with Biloxi, Mississippi? As of last month, they're both home to gaming facilities owned by Twin River. Just 3 years after emerging from bankruptcy, Twin River's owners just paid $250 million for Biloxi's Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. The owners say it's part of their effort to expand the business as they prepare to face major new competition from expanded gambling in Massachusetts. The threat from the Bay State was also what finally got Twin River the green light from lawmakers to add long-sought table games to their facility, which has racked up $27 million in their first 5 months of operation. This week on Executive Suite, from Twin River, Chairman John Taylor and President and CEO George Papanier. Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi, and I'm betting this will be a great show. John, George, thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
And I want to start with, we have a lot to talk about. Table games launch, the Foxwoods proposal in Fall River, and everything else going on with gaming in Massachusetts. But I want to start with that news. A lot of reporters surprised when we got that press release that you'd bought a casino in Biloxi, Mississippi, pretty far from Lincoln, Rhode Island. John, I'll start off with you. Why would a Lincoln casino owner want to own a casino also in Biloxi, Mississippi?
You know, I think when we got involved and emerged from bankruptcy in 2010, the board and the senior management team put together a strategy of how it wanted to build the business, grow the business, and address the threats from Massachusetts. And one of the core elements of that was diversification, both from a geographic perspective as well as from a product perspective. So the property in Biloxi kind of accomplishes both of those things for us. It gets us less reliant on Northeast gamblers, and also allows us to begin to do different things that we don't do in Lincoln.
There's kind of an interesting story here, George, with the Biloxi Casino. They were trying to open right when Hurricane Katrina hit, right?
That's correct. I mean, their timing was unfortunate. In 2005, just 3 days prior to Katrina, they were scheduled to open, and Katrina hit, and it actually took the business out, and it took them 2 years before they were able to get together the funding again to actually build the building again and open, which was the summer of 2007.
And I assume you wouldn't have bought it if it wasn't doing well, but how would you describe the strength of the Hard Rock Casino in Biloxi at this point?
Well, the Hard Rock brand is has a very wide appeal. If you didn't know, the brand started in 1971, and it actually fits very well with our demographic for gaming, which is effectively an age group of 25 years old to 65 years old. So we really like the brand. It's a significant facility. I think it's rated the number 2 to 3 facility in Biloxi. There's 8 casinos there, and yeah, again, it opened in the summer of 2007. It has a 50,000 square foot casino, which has 1,342 slot machines, as well as 51 table games, and a smallish type of a poker room, which houses 4 tables. In addition to that, as a matter of fact, today is the pre-grand opening of a 154-room hotel tower that was just constructed. And when you combine that with the existing hotel rooms, it's almost 500 rooms.
So a big operation down there.
It's a significant operation.
It's a resort.
Yeah.
And John, you know, it is something that in just 3 years, Twin River's gone from bankruptcy to actually securing financing for a $250 million acquisition. I mean, well, viewers might think, wow, that's quite a turnaround. Walk us through how you got from there, being in bankruptcy court and getting out of bankruptcy court, to being able to expand.
Again, when we began post-bankruptcy, spent a lot of time thinking about the core elements of our corporate strategy with a great management team, and we put together a plan, and that plan was tables were important to us. From a Massachusetts perspective, it was important that we had a competitive product mix, so we knew that we had to do that. We realized very early that the key to our success, both now and in the future, was going to be customer service. So we had a unique opportunity, given the size of the facility and the number of employees we had, to create a much more intimate relationship with our players. So George and the team has spent a lot of time and a lot of resource kind of training our employees to deliver a great customer experience, which I think has worked well for us. The third leg of this was a partnership with the state. I mean, anytime You have someone who's taking 62.5 cents of every revenue dollar as their share. There's a partnership there, and I think what we've done is we spent a lot of time developing that relationship, both with the state lottery, with the Department of Business Regulation, to kind of work more closely on how to better position the facility and market it. Get our balance sheet in order. So we spent a lot of time looking at how we could prepare for Massachusetts from a balance sheet perspective, not to have zero debt when Massachusetts came, but have the capacity to do things like this, which was the final element of the strategy, which was geographic and product diversification.
And George, people might wonder, watching at home, they say, well, Twin Rivers, it's supposed to be a Rhode Island thing, and now they're in Mississippi. Do you think there's an upside for Rhode Islanders and Rhode Island in terms of having this expansion and going into other markets?
Yeah, I mean, when you go back and look at why we looked at a transaction like this, and you deal with it defensively first. It's a defensive strategy where, it's relative to Massachusetts coming online within the next few years. So it allowed us to diversify. And secondly, it was offensive in the sense that, we were able to be multi-jurisdictional, which allows for a lot of synergistic opportunities by way of just the sheer volume of both facilities put together, the ability to purchase at discounts. All your administrative functions would be at our corporate headquarters, which would be at Lincoln, Rhode Island. And that includes IT, HR, purchasing, finance. So all those types of things where you would consolidate that type of oversight would happen at Lincoln.
So we're talking about, really, people might think of Twin River as the facility in Lincoln, but really we're talking about a bigger company at this point. Twin River means Twin River in Lincoln. You have a racetrack in Colorado, I know, and also now the Biloxi facility.
That's right.
Right. A strong Twin River is good for the state of Rhode Island, and I think people need to keep that in mind. I mean, we're addressing the threats that most certainly will come from Massachusetts, and I know that's something you're going to want to talk about. But this was, again, an element of a strategy to position Twin River as a business to get stronger, which is, again, a good thing for Rhode Island.
And this is Twin River's first big acquisition, certainly since you came out of bankruptcy, really, at all. Do you expect more in the future? Could you see it growing further in size, the portfolio?
So obviously, we've been looking. So we've been out in the marketplace, and we're very selective. Well, we were very selective about the kind of facility that we were going to look to acquire. The right market, the right property, the right price, the right synergies, places where we could add value. So we've been out, we've been looking. So at this point, we're not focused on anything else, but we're aware of other things that over time we may or may not become interested in.
So you'd be the Donald Trump of Rhode Island at some point down the line?
I don't think so.
All right, we won't put that on you. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the launch of table games at Twin River, which has gone pretty well from their perspective so far. And of course, we're going to talk much more about the threat from gaming in Massachusetts to Twin River and to Rhode Island state revenue. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and I'm joined today by my guests from Twin River, Chairman John Taylor and CEO George Papanier. And we talked at the beginning about table games, George, the launch of that. Long time coming for Twin River. I know you guys have been eyeing that for a while. It's launched, and certainly the state, which takes about 18% of the revenue there, has been happy. They've upped the estimates from about $6.5 million in the first year to $10 million. How's it going from Twin River's perspective, the launch of table games?
It's been going well. We, based on our initial market analysis, we thought we could open table games by July 1, and that was with 66 games. We actually opened it a little more than a week ahead of schedule, which was a good surprise for us. And since then, it's been accepted by our customer. We thought that we would have the ability to attract play primarily from Foxwoods and Mohican. We've certainly seen that. I think we've expanded the market a little bit as well, and as a result of kind of how the volumes have been, we've gone back to the state, as you know, and had the ability to increase the number of table games from 66 units to 80 units.
And are those 80 in place now? You're up to 80 operating?
Yes, they went in place the day after Thanksgiving.
Okay, and anything surprised you so far about, compared to what your expectation was of which games would be popular, when people would play, things like that, versus how it's actually been taken by customers?
Yeah, I think it's just the overall acceptance of the marketplace that Twin River is a viable option for them as opposed to going to Foxwoods or Mohican for gambling. We made sure we put a very good player-centric game in place. As far as popularity of the games, blackjack is popular, just as popular at our casino as it is at any other casino, although we do offer craps and poker and roulette and some novelty games like Let It Ride, Spanish 21, and three-card poker.
And as George said, John, you received permission pretty quickly to up the number of table games from 66 to 80. I mean, do you expect that to ask again for another rise anytime soon? It sounds like there's demand at least for the 80.
Right. So there's a lot of there were a lot of questions kind of posed to us through the campaign in terms of what kind of games and how many and other amenities. And I think, I'll say now what we said then, which is we're going to let the market talk to us, and we're going to see how the games play. We're going to see what our customers are saying, what they want, what they need, and then we'll react from that point. But as of right now, I think we're pretty comfortable with the 80 games that we have, that we're able to kind of meet the demand, particularly at peak times. But again, we're going to listen. We're going to listen to our customers, and then we'll react.
A couple of your customers via Twitter asked me when they heard you guys were coming on, when are they going to have full-scale poker at Twin River? That's what they want. Is that in the cards? Are you looking at it?
It's currently not in the cards.
No pun intended.
Yeah. But however, we always look at opportunity to continue to expand our player base. And it's something that we're going to continue to look at depending on the demand for it.
I'm just curious, what's the reason, why is poker in a different category from blackjack, say? Is it harder to scale up poker? Is it just it requires a different skill set? What's the thinking there?
No, we have certain space limitations. So there's an analysis that we go through to determine the types of games that we want, types of product that we want based on demand. And then you just got to look at overall state of poker. At one point, poker, I'll call it, was a dying art. And then with the advent of celebrity poker, it really came storming back, and since then it's kind of been trailing off a little bit.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, seems like it's always on ESPN still, Saturday afternoons and everything. I also got to ask, John, I'll put this one to you. When the state put the legislation in to do table games, the take for the state was set at 18%. There's still some buzz. The House Minority Leader has said, why is it 18? Maybe it should be more. Maybe it should be a different number. I mean, where did that 18% number come from? And is there a reason, what would happen if they went to 20%, 21% on you? So
I'll start with the fact that the national average for table games is 12%. And there was a lot of discussion between the facility and the state over what the right tax rate is for this particular product, which is heavily labor intensive. It's a much different product than our slot machines.
Because people, just to be clear to folks, that it's not 18% of profit, it's 18% of just the money that comes in as revenue, right?
It's 18% of the drop, which is
of the win.
Okay, of the win. Oh, okay. Glad we clarified it.
but nonetheless, labor intensive.
Yeah.
So we saw the national average. We kind of figured out our own economics in terms of how we were going to operate this business, how we could effectively market this business. And quite frankly, 18% was at the very upper end of what we thought would work for us. On a blended basis, Twin River remains, if not one of the highest taxed casinos in America, with I think 58-59% blended rate. By comparison, the facility that we're acquiring in Biloxi, Mississippi, has a tax rate of 12%. So I think the team has done a great job at learning how to effectively market slot machines in a high tax environment. But tables was a different animal, and we really needed to be able to kind of do it in the right way. And I think 18% we're comfortable at. I'm not sure we would be comfortable much higher. And
you mentioned labor-intensive jobs was a big part of the push to get voters to approve this. Where do things stand with the promises on number of jobs?
So on election day, we had 890 people working at Twin River. And at the time, we promised 350 new direct jobs at the facility. In reality, what happens today, we have 1,515 employees at Twin River. So we almost doubled the number of employees that we thought we would need to hire, and still have probably upwards of another 100 people that we need to identify, not including anything that we might need as we begin to digest the Biloxi acquisition. So I think, in terms of the promises we made during the campaign, we've met or exceeded them in all areas.
All right, we have to take another break, but when we come back, we're going to dive in on the Massachusetts threat. You keep hearing it already coming up in our discussion here about what happens if casinos get built right over the border in the Bay State. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi, and my guests this week, we have a lot to talk about. Twin River Chairman John Taylor and Twin River CEO George Papanier. And John, the question everyone's probably been waiting for me to ask you, and I'll have you weigh in too, George, is just this week, we didn't even know it when we booked this show, Foxwoods comes in and announces they want to build a big, full-scale resort-style casino in Fall River, a new proposal there right over the border. What's your reaction?
So we've said all along that we can focus on the things that we can control, and while we want to be aware of what's going on over the border, we can't really have much impact in what happens. We knew casinos were coming. We knew a minimum of 3 destination casinos were coming and 1 slot parlor. So our strategy was built on the fact that there was a threat that was coming, and we needed to prepare ourselves as a business. So in terms of Foxwoods or the Mashpee Wampanoags,
which is in Taunton,
both significant competitors. The Wampanoags partnered with Genting, a significant operator. Obviously, Foxwoods very skilled at operating casinos in this particular region. So we knew they were coming, and we've been doing what we can to prepare for that.
George, does it change for you and your senior management team at Twin River, depending on if we're talking about Taunton or are we talking about Fall River, or could it be a little further away in New Bedford? And then, of course, as you said, the slot parlor could be in Plainville or Raynham, or do you just have to sort of say, do the best we can at Twin River and hope it takes a long time up there?
It's a combination of both. I mean, we're certainly aware of what's happening in Massachusetts. The siting of the ultimate location of the facilities, whether they're further away or closer, will certainly have an impact. But as John said, we just focus on our core business, which is really providing a good experience to our customer and offer them what we feel they want.
Let me say this. John. So, I think what you're looking for is some sort of analysis of the impact from the state's perspective, from our perspective, and therefore the state's perspective. So there's going to be a casino in the western portion of the state, and it looks like that's going to happen in Springfield. And there's going to be something in the greater Boston area, and there's going to eventually be something in the southeastern zone. And the southeastern zone is a very complicated zone because of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act and the Kachiri Supreme Court decision, and the decisions that the Mass Gaming Commission has to make in that zone, whether to let a commercial casino or not. From a western region and from a Boston region, those casinos will be on the outer fringe of where our players are coming from. So while there will be impact there, it is probably not as great as the impact will be when eventually something's built in the southeastern zone. As it relates to the slot parlors, obviously Plainville, Raynham, pretty close to us. Limited number of machines, limited number of amenities. We think, given what we have become, we can successfully compete against them, but there will be impact. If that slot license goes to Leominster, it'll be far less.
Yeah.
So much is really things out of your control.
Right, that's location.
And just to add to that a little bit, 75% of our business comes from within approximately a 35-minute to 40-minute drive.
So you have a lot of
people aren't going to be able to take our location away. There's a lot of talk about, oh my God, these big destination casinos. I mean, the fact of the matter is we're easy to get to, and that's not going to change. The fact that you can be on 95 or 295 and get off on 146 and literally pull into our parking lot is not going to change. So the convenience is still going to be there, and we've been working really hard on delivering a great customer experience. We want to continue to do that.
Did Twin River ever consider competing for one of these licenses, somehow trying to cannibalize yourself?
No, we didn't. We have agreements with the state, which kind of limits where we can kind of go. That wasn't a consideration.
And it seems like it's been a messy process in Massachusetts so far. Votes down on proposals people thought would pass. There's a tribe in Taunton, plus the other things down on the South Coast. I mean, have you been surprised at how it's rolled out so far, or has this gone pretty much the way you've expected?
This seems to be pretty consistent with other jurisdictions when they go about trying to introduce gaming or casinos into their state. So it's from the onset, we thought it would be a lengthy process. It's turning out to be that. And Foxwoods, from their perspective, they've been in other locations before. They put up their money initially for the ability to have a license. So it probably makes sense for them to continue to shop locations as long as it's as long as they're still going through the
time. Obviously,
selection process.
Time helps us, and this acquisition comes at exactly the right time. So we will. We'll be able to close on the acquisition when we complete licensing, which we expect to happen in June or July. And we'll have, a couple of years to digest what's going on there. The combined cash flows of the two facilities will more than likely pay for that acquisition before Massachusetts actually gets up and running with their destination casinos. So, again, part of this kind of strategy of how do we use our balance sheet to prepare for the future, that's what we're doing. The time frames that it looks like Massachusetts destination casinos are going to follow kind of works quite nicely from our perspective. Should
Twin River consider going to a full-scale resort casino, build a big hotel in Lincoln and become a, Foxwoods on 146?
I'll go back to what I said earlier about kind of reading the market and understanding what the players want. Way back when we first started the campaign, one of our advisors, a pretty smart kind of market sizing group, kind of came and said, look, you're a convenience casino and you're probably always going to be a convenience casino. And that's how we're operating, and that's how we're kind of thinking about the market. With that said, we're continuing to listen to our players about what they want, what they need to want to continue to come to us. So. Is a casino something that we would consider at some point? Is a hotel something that we consider at some point in the future? Absolutely. But at this point, we don't see it as part of our overall amenity mix now.
All right, well, that's really all the time we have this week, but I want to thank John Taylor and George Papanier for being here to talk about Twin River and Massachusetts, and there's a lot to keep track of for all of us. I need a moving map that shows me where everything's going to go. And if you want to get a sense of that changing landscape in Massachusetts, our own Steve Nielsen here at WPRI posted something online just yesterday on Nisi's Notes on my blog that explains where the different licenses are and who the players are and everything, and I highly recommend you read it if you want to keep track of this ongoing story. As always, if you missed any of this episode of Executive Suite or any other episode, you can catch them all on our website, WPRI.com. I'll be back here next week, and I hope you will be too, on Executive Suite.